Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is Leading Off. It is me, Joey P. Joe Pisapia. That, of course, is Dinger Dan Harris, and it's you. And we're talking all things baseball, and we did have a single baseball game last night to talk about. We're going to talk about our thoughts from the All-Star game, and, of course, we're also going to talk about our thoughts on some players going forward. I've got 5 pitchers and 5 hitters that I think could be very pivotal depending on how they perform for the second half, or should I say the latter part now of the Major League Baseball season. We'll get into all of that, and we'll also get into what in the hell was everybody wearing yesterday. Dan Harris, the All-Star Game uniforms looked exactly like the old school baseball stars ones from old school NES. If you're old enough to have played that game, then your life was pretty good and your childhood was amazing. But what in the hell was that? I like seeing the real jerseys out there. What was that? I don't get that at all. It's terrible. I hate it, Dan. I'm an old man yelling at the sky.
I'm in agreement with you. The wearing of your normal uniforms, that's what the All-Star game is. This is probably just a marketing ploy by MLB. Sucked. I didn't like it whatsoever. You should answer Aaron's question before we go forward, really.
Well, I wasn't bringing it up there.
No,
Aaron wants to know how I got my head so shiny. It's all the knowledge, Aaron. All the knowledge just starts to seep out and it starts to glow. And I actually haven't even shaved in a few days, so there you go.
Oh, boy, but look at you.
It's this is not an accident, okay? In the words of John Witherspoon, you think this is an accident? No, this is coordinated. That's what that is. But Dan, why do they do these things? And why are they talking to Freddie Freeman while he's trying to play and then a ball goes over his head?
I mean,
Freddie Freeman was being a nice guy there, but come on.
I actually thought that was pretty funny. I thought the whole thing, like when you're like, oh, all right, let's get Liam Hendricks talking on the mound while he's closing out a game. I kind of enjoyed it. I thought it was weird, but I do think that making players mic'd up, like that would just increase it, maybe not, don't talk to them while they're batting or fielding, but having more players mic'd up, generally speaking, would be really good for the game. There is nothing that I enjoy more, and it's been taken down everywhere. But when Syndergaard was thrown out of the game or thrown behind Chase Utley, and somebody leaked the whole Terry Collins rant, and the umpires came off great in that whole thing. That one umpire did, and Terry Collins, like as a Mets fan, you never really appreciate Terry Collins, but when you saw that, you were like, oh, now I know why all those players love him. Now I know why, because he goes to war with them. It was great insight into just what they do. They should mic like half the teams up every game and just have it like that. Maybe not talk to them during plays and stuff like that. But other than that, I love it. Just
make sure you have a 5-second delay at least. Also, Freddie Freeman's son is hilarious. He's like that whole quote about, Dad, can you start picking things up so we can go to the All-Star game and I can be Fernando Tatis. That is like the exemplification of, as dads, your kids are always thoroughly unimpressed by you, no matter what you do.
It's true.
That kid's dad is Freddie Freeman, one of the best players in Major League Baseball, right? And he's like, Dad, can you just introduce me to Fernando Tatis? I mean, hysterical, brilliant, and it just goes to show you, it doesn't matter what you do, your kids have zero respect for you. Speaking of which, I just want to give everybody an update. Will Harris is okay. He is not out for the season. He is day-to-day. If you were on stages last night, there was a small incident where I don't even know if Dan wants to share the story.
Sure,
all I know is kids get into hilarious things on the way to bed and that they should not be touching or doing or getting involved in. But he's okay. That's the main part. And I want to thank everybody for joining stages. I was having some technical difficulty getting in there, but once I did, it was magical. It was wonderful. I want to do another one. It's like old school radio call-in stuff. Good times, and I want to thank everyone who joined. But Dan, Will is okay. The trainers gave him the seal of approval, right?
There is a little known fact about parenting, which is you should not let your kids play with their new ice skates right before bed. That's just something that, something that I need to learn as a parent, and it's a good first time experience for me. So there was a minor accident that I had to go jump off stages to deal with. Mom was there, but only dad can handle the big events. So Will Harris is fine. He is ready. He went to camp today. He's good to go. No stitches necessary. So all is well. But yes, it was a great time yesterday. We'll certainly do it again. And next season, by the way, into draft season, that's when it's going to be really most important. Because I think, Joe, you and I can sort of bang those out all the time. Have people come up. They can ask questions. We can do AMAs all the time, especially in the beginning of the season. But yes, everybody, thank you for joining us. So that was great.
And we're going to be doing it during football season too. So make sure you join Discord at fantasypros.com/chat. It's going to be a huge thing for us this year. And I just, just be able to interact with everybody too is so cool to, just.
We know
like
what
the
Wonky
community
Penguin
feel.
sounds like.
I
That's
know.
amazing. I know what
We
Dr.
got to
Glenn
talk
sounds like from a
St.
former
Christopher.
one.
I missed Dr. Glenn. I'm very upset because I had
But he
something.
wasn't. I don't think
I
he was
wanted to
there.
take a look at this thing on my neck there and see what
Oh,
what he
yeah.
thought that might be.
All right.
But it wasn't enough time. But anyway, let's talk about the game. Vladdy Guerrero, the star of the game, the youngest MVP ever, goes yard. Not surprising there. The American League wins again. The under comes in. The over-under was 11, and I understand, like, last time the game was in Coors, it was, like, 5,000 runs scored, but that was also in 1998, where the players were juiced up and there was a lot going on, so I'm not surprised by the under. I think it's very hard, Dan, for a Major League Baseball game, where you have players getting one shot at a pitcher, that they don't see that often to get hits and things like that, but that just tells you how great Vlad is. It was a very quick game, too, very expeditious, which was good. Sometimes they drag on. But overall, entertaining. Vladdy gave you the big moment, and that seems to be all she wrote. Any other thoughts on the game last night?
I mean, I think the National League struck out 3 times in the game. Like, that's crazy. Yeah. That's probably one of the reasons.
Get up, grip it, and rip
Let's
it. That's
go. That's one of the reasons why it moved so quickly. But yeah, it was entertaining. I'm reminded of how ridiculous it was that they used to determine home field advantage based on the winner of the game. It's something that's just fun. It's great to get a little insight, a little, I like them mic'd up. It was great to just have casual fans sort of be like, oh, look at these guys. They're fun to sort of, deal with. So it was an enjoyable game, not the best All-Star game I've ever seen. But yeah, the under, to the extent you were betting, I think we both said, I definitely said the American League. I remember that.
American League under and Vlad Guerrero home run prop is what I went on Sports Grid yesterday to talk about. And 3 for 3. If only I put money on it. I was so busy yesterday with stupid camp that I forgot to even do that. But that's okay. But we'll get into more of your fantasy stuff too, because here's a good question here. Trade Meadows, Morton, and Luis Robert for Mike Trout. I say yes. Yes, if you can get Mike Trout, do it. This is the time to pounce, take a shot, go Hamilton style there. I think that's an appropriate amount. Luis Robert, obviously the health still a question for him. Morton, you've still got the age factor with him. Also, what the Braves look like here without Acuna, which I think is going to be a lesser version. But yeah, I'm in for this. How about you, Dan? You think this is appropriate value, Mr. Trade Chart, Mr. TC, the EIC of FP?
The trade chart will say not to do this for sure. But the reason is just because I don't know. I still have no idea when Trout's coming back to you. Like, I mean, do we? I don't think it's going to be in July. He hasn't done. He's not going to run at all anymore. So I think really what it depends on, and this is probably will be my lead in to the trade chart. It's like if you're in a head-to-head league, obviously, but if you're in a rotisserie league and you're in a good spot, okay, you're really in a good spot. You have a lot of depth. Then you can make that move for sure. But if you are like, man, I need to have a huge second half, I'm trading for Trout. Trout, I don't think he's going to be back before August. Maybe.
I think August. I mean, it's only the 14th of July. I mean, if he gets the green light.
I think August, right. Because he's going to need a lengthy rehab assignment, and he's not going to run. Like, there will be no stolen bases to the extent you were even thinking about that. Mm-hmm. I think it's fine to do that. But Meadows is a quality player. Morton is a quality starter. And, Robert, he'll probably be back in September. So I probably wouldn't do it. I don't fault you if you do, but I probably wouldn't.
All right, here's another question from the Red B. How do you boys see Juan Soto doing in the second half? 2 words: sunshine and rainbows. That's what I see. And one of my bold predictions on the Bold Prediction show was Juan Soto would end up being the Juan of the year. That is not going to come to fruition. However, one of my bold predictions was also Shohei Ohtani having 100 RBI and 100 strikeouts. He's awfully close to that mark already. There's a chance. It's a chance by like that first week of August. Check on that bad boy. But tomorrow we will do some bold predictions. I think that'll be fun. Dan and I will maybe go through that, give you our rest of season bold predictions. That should be fun. Also last night, Dan, Freddie Peralta. Woo-wee. I don't want to lose sight of that. That was a fun performance where you get up there and the guy just bullets, man. Just throwing bullets by people. God, I love me some Freddie Peralta. I think that's also a great reminder, if you will, about patience with certain players. Like Freddie Peralta was a young arm with a lot of talent. Sometimes you just got to wait, be patient, and sometimes that patience is rewarded. Sometimes it's not. But if you believe in the player, practice patience. Not everybody goes out there and becomes Juan Soto, where they're just the best player in baseball almost from the get. Like that's just not always going to happen. But what did you think of Freddie Peralta and then on the other side, Corbin Burns' performance where he walks somebody and he's giving up hits? I mean, who is that guy? I don't know who that guy is.
What I'd like to ask you about, Joe, is Peralta in particular, like put aside his performance, of course, in the All-Star game. What are we thinking about Peralta rest of season? Let's go back. Let's go. Well, hold on.
Yeah,
let's go back. Let me set it up. You're the
terrified.
Host. You're the host.
But he's one of our names. So do you want to just start talking names?
Sure. Yeah. All right. Great.
All right. So let's do it.
The show sheet. My bad.
Why would you read the show sheet?
I would you be surprised?
Last night, by the way, Dan roasted me about my lack of preparedness and professionalism because I couldn't get stages to work properly. And here's Dan. There's like 2 things in the show sheet, and he read.
I want to be surprised about what's happening today. Okay, this is intentional.
Surprise! I'm unprepared. All right. So here you go. The 5 most important fantasy finishers for pitchers, and then we're gonna do hitters too. One of them is Freddie Peralta. So that's actually one of the 5. So go ahead, set up your question to me about Freddie P.
I think the Brewers were pretty open about what their plan was for pitchers coming into the year, and it was 100 more innings than they pitched last year. Now, I don't think anybody went in and saying, like, they're definitely going to hold them to that. But you look at a guy like Freddie Peralta, this is not a guy who, like, okay, you started last year, you pitched 60, 70 innings, so we're going to be careful. This is a guy who last year pitched 29 1/3 innings. The year before in the majors, 85 innings. He probably had, I think, 6 or 7 more. But he basically is not a guy who tops 100 innings at all. But again, last year, less than 30. He's at 98. He's at 98 innings right now, Joe. What, realistically, do we just expect the Brewers to just push him the whole way without any regard, given that this is the first time he's done this? Or are you concerned about what we're going to see from him rest of the season?
Well, the most he's ever thrown was 120, and that was back in 2017.
Right.
So I just want to put that out there. I'm terrified. And legit.
Are you trading for him? Like, or are you backing off because you're worried about the innings?
Here's the thing. The most important share I have is in a head-to-head points home league where I'm in the playoffs. Now, luckily for me, in that scenario, our playoffs end the first week of September. We start the way my league is structured. We have this one long extended week. It's the last week after the All-Star break. Boom, playoffs start. So it's a 16-team league. 8 teams make the playoffs. 2 weeks of playoffs, 2 weeks of playoffs, 2 weeks of championship. And then boom, by the time Labor Day rolls around, it's football season and everybody can go home happy.
Okay.
So for me, it's not an issue. Season-long roto, he's already given you everything you need. So your Freddie and Peralta investment has been so good. It's putting the kids through college. It is going out there and it's paying off student loans. That's how good Freddie P's been in terms of investments. But if you are in a league that's playing all the way to September with any sort of head-to-head roto categories, there's definitely concern. I just don't know what you can sell him off of. And the same goes for Corbin Burns. I have both of those guys. Woodruff I don't have the concern with as much. But Burns and Peralta, who's the other guy on this, there's 3 more pitchers to talk about. I have legitimate concerns. Dan, in your opinion, I mean, if you could trade Freddie Peralta right now on your magical trade chart of wisdom and knowledge, what does the trade chart even tell you can get back? I mean, would you take a Charlie Morton for Freddie Peralta just based on, Charlie Morton's going to soldier through and continue to give you innings? Or do you roll the dice with the Freddie P? I think I roll the dice with the Freddie P and see what happens because he's been so good. But I have to understand, there's failure potentially in September for him without a doubt.
Yeah, it's tough. It's really difficult to figure out exactly what you want to do here because, again, I very much play out my fantasy baseball seasons as trying to do what I can now, okay? Because if I look a month and a half down, the road, who knows if I'm going to be able to get there unless I know I have the production now. So for me, Peralta is this guy who's going to be slowly dropping down the trade chart as pretty much every week goes, just because I don't know. But for now, I would still take Peralta over Morton just because the performance that we're getting right now, he's not on the verge of getting shut down. This is not like, in 2 weeks, right? But
he's going to become he's 5-inning pitcher, yes, possibly. Like you
might also, right.
Because you want him for the playoff. You're the Brewers. You're not just looking at September, but you got to get there. Like,
Right.
and I think if you're the Brewers, you realize you got to get there too. So,
And remember, the Reds, they're only 4 games back. Like it was the Cubs, and then they start to build this lead, and then you're like, okay, maybe they'll sell in. But the Reds are right there, and if they keep, the big thing is that if they get a giant lead or something like that, then they're going to back off. I'm sure these guys. Burns, by the way, not quite as big a deal. He had 60 innings last year. He's at 87.2 right now, so that probably puts him, because he missed a little time, he's probably about trending for 160, 170. So Burns' performance, you might be like, what's the walks? But other than that, I don't really worry about what he's going to give you rest of season in terms of innings. Peralta, though, it is a concern. And again, at the same time, though, he's going to gradually move down the trade chart, but he's not like plummeting down, and I would prefer him to Morton.
would you rather have Framber Valdez or Freddie Peralta rest of the season?
I still think I think I'm taking Peralta still, but Framber, I'm a little worried about Framber just with the sudden uptick in walks that are going on right now. And it's just so hard because Peralta, first of all, in a points league, by the way, right? As you mentioned, I do too. That's my lone share of Freddie Peralta is in a head-to-head points league where he starts at relief pitcher for me. That's a
me
huge
too.
deal, right?
Oh, and I love it. And that's the other thing too. It's like I'm going down with that shit, brother.
Well, my worry in that league, by the way, and I'm sure fantasy managers can relate to this, is that I have a very solid team. I've lost Bieber for now. I've lost Glass now for now. I'm the highest scoring team, but I've run into like the hardest schedule. So I'm like almost right on the periphery of making the playoffs. So in that type of league, like I can't think about getting rid of Peralta, even if I know I have a good team, because I have to get to the playoffs at that point. So I'm just going to squeeze every little bit of juice out of that share that I can. But if I was in the first, if I was in first, I knew I had a playoff spot locked up, I might consider it in that sense. I might consider trading Peralta. But other than that, I'm holding him over Framber Valdez, I think. But that's a fair trade.
No, that's where I'm thinking in my head, off the top of my head, it's Framber Valdez. Would you rather have Blake Snell or Freddie Peralta rest of the season?
No, Freddie Peralta. I look, Blake.
Okay,
So we were joking about. No. I'm not saying it's a bad question. We were joking about our bold predictions show that we had on Discord yesterday. The first bold prediction I offered on our bold prediction show was that Blake Snell would finish as the #1 fantasy pitcher. So I'm probably not going to be right on that, but I have just no faith right now in Blake Snell whatsoever. So I'm not trading Peralta for that.
Again, they were bold predictions, everyone, not
I don't care. Yeah, of course.
We're trying to be bold and be entertaining. That's what we're trying to do.
But
we're just here for your amusement. We're basically gladiators of podcast world. That's all we are. We're disposable. They move on to the next couple hosts after us. The Lions come and eat us. That's it.
So, all right, how about, would you prefer, because I'm now looking at my rest of season rankings, Freddie Peralta, what about Ryu?
I love the Blue Jays in the second half. I really do.
I know.
That's a tough one for me. I think I'm just going to keep Freddie Peralta because of the strikeouts.
Freddie
Peralta's a strong kid, too. I'm just going to hope for the best that physically he's able to do it. And maybe it's something we actually revisit next year on Freddie Peralta, where we start to say, okay, how much is that going to affect his 2022 season? But again, right now, if you got a healthy pitcher performing, you're just, grateful at this point. That's where you are. Let's talk about some other guys too. Sure. Carlos Carrasco, I think that's a guy, if he can come back healthy for 2 months, he is a difference maker because of all these Glass now injuries, because of the guys that we've had miss time, right? I mean, Carlos Carrasco, I don't know if he's on the waiver wire in some leagues. I don't know if people have dropped him, what they've had to do. But Carrasco, for me, is one of those guys, too, I circle, because he was so good last year in that short sample size. In the 60 games, he looked just like Cookie used to look. And, I mean, the Mets are a good baseball team, so he would really benefit from being there nationally. All those things would all fall into place. It's just a matter of health. Then Steven Strasburg and Trevor Bauer are the other two guys that I think really are, it's very important. I don't know what you're going to get out of Trevor Bauer and how much you're going to get. And then same thing can be said for Steven Strasburg for different reasons. So if you want to roll the dice on Carrasco, Bauer, or Strasburg, who would be the guy for you that you're like, you know what, if I'm going to take a risk, who's the risk for you?
I think it is Carrasco, which is mind-boggling for me to say, because he's not been a guy that I've wanted to have any shares of whatsoever. Now, the Mets have had the luxury right now of surviving, despite the fact that they're throwing bullpen games and they're throwing out whoever they can to get there. So, I think in the end, Carrasco, who's starting a rehab assignment now, it's going to be a slow build, okay? He's probably not going to be back till August. But I have very few concerns about how he's going to be when he gets back. I do have concerns about Strasburg, A, when he comes back, B, how he's going to, how he's going to be when he comes back, whether he can survive. And I mean, Carrasco has all these injuries, but it's really just been a hamstring. It was a bad hamstring injury.
It's not like elbow and shoulder issues.
And right, exactly, because Strasburg has this bizarre neck, shoulder, blah, blah, blah.
Carpal tunnel. I mean, he's got some of the weirdest things. It's just crazy.
It's just feeling like it's not something where I want to invest in that, where I would in Carrasco. As for Bauer, we talked about a little bit on stages last night. And look, if people are offended by the fact that we analyze it from a fantasy perspective, that's our job. That's what we have to do. I don't expect Trevor. I'm not, if I roster Trevor Bauer, if I'm looking at him as a trade candidate, I'm not expecting him to pitch for the rest of the year. That's how I'm valuing him. So in the trade chart that is going to be published tomorrow, Joe, he'll have a value just because the top 250 players in fantasy have a value. So I don't know whether or not he's going to pitch, but I'm expecting him to either not pitch at all for the rest of the season, or if he does, to offer extremely minimal value. So he's, he and Strasburg, basically, I don't have much interest in. And also Carrasco's the guy who I'll go with there.
Little Pugsley here, Pugsley 2000. You guys did a great job last night answering any and all questions. It was fun to get to chat with you all. Likewise, Pugsley was there. Mr. Buster, I believe, was there too. Yep. Like all the peanuts and the Cracker Jacks. And look, it's just so much fun. Go to fantasypros.com/chat and join Discord. It is great. Okay, it is a good time there. Plus all the Joe Pisapia memes that everybody's been making. I've seen them all. I see them. Just because I'm not always commenting doesn't mean I don't see them. I want to give people a space for creativity.
I make sure that everybody can, tweak you a little bit to get you in there so you defend yourself.
Look, this last couple of weeks with football have been a little busy.
I know. I hosted a football show and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I used to do this.
You're like, what was I doing? Right. Yeah. So it's been a little bit of a busy time here. But
by the way, I will mention with Discord that with football, by the way, because again, I assume that our draft kit just dropped. Hooray! Our draft kit, ton of great stuff in there. One thing that is in there, which is, our Discord schedule for stages and everything like that, because we're going to be doing a ton of them right now with football and everything like that. So don't forget that. I think it's fantasypros.com/draft kit. You can go there and get all the stuff, which includes, when you have access to the draft kit, you will get access to stages. So
nice.
Again, fantasypros.com/chat or fantasypros.com/draft kit. Get all the benefits again.
It's literally like Larry King live with me, and Dan's kind of, that's what it feels like. And Dan, you could be Larry King for Halloween.
I basically am Larry King every day of my life.
Are you there, caller? Are you there?
Hello.
Are you there, caller?
Hello.
Hello, Des Moines. Des Moines, are you there? All right, before we get into the 5 most important fantasy finishes for hitters that we got our eye on, I want to remind everybody, go to manscaped.com, get that Lawnmower 4.0. That is the tool that you need to take all of your grooming to the next level. Next level grooming is very important. That's what the kids are all talking about too. It's on the streets there. Everybody's talking about, you have the next level grooming, or you just kind of old school where you're letting it all hang out. No. You got to be trimmed. You got to be ready. It's summertime. You got to look good. So go out there, get your Lawnmower 4.0. It's got the longest battery life in the history of batteries. It's got the brightest light ever. It shines brighter than Dan Harris after 2 cups of cold brew from Trader Joe's. It is a stunning thing. And Mike Mayer verified that none of the things that I say when I'm doing these are in the show sheets, that I'm literally just talking out of my you-know-what. And it's true. But if you want to make sure all the hair near your you-know-whats is all trimmed, you need that Lawnmower 4.0. So go to manscaped.com, use that code leading off. Again, 20% off, free shipping. Leading off is the code, manscaped.com. Your balls will thank you. Dan, Byron Buxton, number 1 on this list here in terms of hitters. Expectations for him as we close out the show. We got 5 players in 5 minutes. Let's go. Byron Buxton, your thoughts?
I have zero concerns that Byron Buxton will be an excellent player when he's on the field this year. He gave us nothing to doubt that whatsoever. I have absolutely no idea when he's going to be on the field, and if he's on the field, whether or not he can stay there. So I'm not investing in Byron Buxton. I'm not expecting him to have much of an impact rest of the season. Do we have a timeline on him ever since the hand? I don't think so, right?
Yeah, not that I've
timeline
seen.
Is probably minimal, whatever it is. So I
does it matter? He'll probably get hurt on the way back.
And I would love to see what Buxton could do if he could just stay healthy. Again, another one of my bold predictions that he'd be a top 6 fantasy outfielder, but I'm not investing because it's just the health. That's all.
This came up yesterday in the chat, which is Eloy Jimenez, the old guy who had him. I forget who it was. We were having this conversation. Ronald Acuna lost Acuna, but he has Eloy coming back. And I said, well, is it a roto league? Because look, you lose the stolen bases with Acuna, but if it's, and it wasn't, it was head-to-head points. I'm like, look, Eloy basically is statistically Ronald Acuna in a lot of ways as a hitter, just without the stolen bases. So that is actually a really, good set of circumstances. Doesn't allow you to like trade Eloy Jimenez because Acuna's out now. But Eloy, I think, is another player that we have to keep our eye on if he can come back healthy, ready to go. It also, we talked about this on stages last night, the squeeze of Andrew Vaughn is coming because he'll play some of the outfield. He's not maybe give Abreu a day off at first base, but Eloy's going to play DH. They're going to let that guy see the field again, and rightfully so, because he's a butcher out there anyway, and you don't want him hurting himself. What about George Springer? I think a quiet first half of the season for George Springer, mostly injured. Now, second half, I'm expecting the Blue Jays with Simeon and Vlad and Bo. This is going to be a very exciting team, and I think George Springer is going to help teach the kids how to win. What do you think?
Yep. Springer's been pretty terrible since he came back, but it's not all that unexpected. He basically missed, 2 months, of the season. He's going to be fine. We've seen enough from Springer in that park with that lineup. He's going to be awesome. I don't think the stolen bases are there anymore for him generally, like has nothing to do with this year, just generally. Mm-hmm. But in terms of overall production, counting stats other than stolen bases, I think he's going to be a monster. I really hope the Blue Jays go on a major run right now because, man, they are fun to watch. So, yeah.
You can get the Blue Jays at 11-1 right now.
Buy them. I would buy them in the betting market. I would buy pretty much every hitter in fantasy because I think with the weather warm, with the lineup at full strength, it's just going to be good. Even Biggio has been good since he came back from the IL.
We've even gone that far. We even
You're right.
Kevin Biggio.
Everyone.
Teoscar Hernandez, Biggio, everybody. Get in the pool.
Let's go.
Get in the pool. Let's go. All right, how about Cody Bellinger? We talked about him a little bit last night. To me, this is another player, too, where my expectations are very low right now. I just feel like more and more, the deeper we get into the season, it's starting to feel like a lost season for him. And I know someone earlier asked about, is Mookie Betts going to be Mookie Betts? And I always come back to the same thing with Mookie Betts. When Mookie Betts had David Ortiz in that lineup, Mookie Betts was tremendous. Then the year he didn't have David Ortiz, it fell apart. Then he got Rafael Devers' emergence and JD Martinez and all those guys. I was like, oh my God, Mookie Betts is amazing again. And then he goes to LA. He's got line of protection there. Mookie Betts is a player that needs line of protection. As great of a player as he is, he needs it. He's not getting it this year, and that's why it's affecting him. So what are your thoughts on Cody Bellinger in this last 2.5 months of the season here?
There's just very little that he's offered to make you feel optimistic about it. Yeah. Again, we talked about it last night. You go through an MVP season, you come off it, you're like, I got to change my whole swing. Makes no sense. He has battled injury. He has underperformed. I told you basically, Joe, last night when we talked about it on stages that he's basically, I think I have him as the 40th ranked player, which I can't even justify it. Like, there's nothing in his profile that makes me say,
track record.
It's the track record. It's the MVP season. It's what he did before that. So basically equivalent to Starling Marte. He's right there in terms of value for rest of the season. That's strong value, but the idea that he's going to be a second round pick at this point, I don't have him there, but he has enough of a track record where I buy into it to perform.
Pugsley 2000 wants to know what's the chart thoughts on trading Yelich for Corey Seager in a Cats league. I don't even have to look at the chart. Do it. We talked about last night. We talked about Yelich. We had a long conversation about, Dan mentioned about how he's too patient at the plate. And I said that's because he's not taking enough swings because the back is still bothering him. The power numbers are way down. He's got basically the same exact sample size as last season. He had 12 home runs last year, 5 this year. The slugging is down. The OBP is still very high because he's walking so much because he's just getting on base, but he is not an offensive force right now. That back is an issue. Don't think any differently. And as the garage opens, which signals that we're nearing the end of the show.
It's weird because there was supposed to be no walk of the dog right now. So very bizarre.
I told you, anyone in your house hears you talking, they run. They just like, oh, enough. I can't possibly listen to Dan anymore. But that was a great conversation we had about Yelich last night. I don't even need to see it. I'd take my shot on Corey Seager. How about you?
So what's funny, Joe, is that Wednesday is the day of the trade chart. Because there's no baseball this week, I drafted it last night. So I have the updated values right now. But as we talk through this, I feel like I need to change a little bit. Again, because we talked about Yelich a lot. The big thing is not swinging, because when he is swinging, he's not making great contact, which suggests to me he's still injured. So I'm probably going to lower him. Even so, right now I have Seager ahead of him. So I would prefer Seager rest of the season, who, again, had a little bit of a setback, but now seems like he's on the verge of returning. And P.S., I think Corey Seager might be like, on a fully healthy year, a second round pick going forward. Because I love the bat so much. So he's a guy who, if you can buy right now, like at any sort of discount.
I think people are forgetting how good he was last year. Last guy on this list of 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, last guy on this list of 5, Freddie Freeman, without Acuna, without Azuna. It's going to be him and Albies going forward.
Don't care.
And Freddie's had a tough, first half of the season anyway. I still love Freddie Freeman, but if anyone's down on him, I would go and be aggressive and acquire him because Freddie Freeman is a professional. Freddie Freeman's going to show up, and I think Freddie Freeman's going to do everything he can to put this team on his back because that's who Freddie Freeman is. But what are your thoughts on Freddie? And, of course, even if he does all of that and makes the playoffs, his son still will not respect him enough or be impressed.
You mentioned a down to it probably has been, and in that he's hit 274 with 19 home runs. Like he's just an absolute monster. And I do worry about the fact that he's probably going to get walked a ton. I mean, he already walks a ton. Why are you going to pitch to Freddie Freeman? Because don't forget again, we don't want to talk, but Marcell Ozuna also was his lineup projection. He's been out for the entire year. You've got no Acuna now. They'll probably make some sort of trade. Dansby Swanson, Austin Riley are fine. He's going to get walked a lot. He'll probably score a lot of runs, but either way, he's too good of a player. I'm buying completely. Zero hesitation, really, regardless of the line of protection.
All right, tomorrow, no baseball, but we'll be here anyway with some bold predictions for the latter part. Who knows? Maybe we'll get into a little predictions too, have some fun. I know we were talking about we were going to do that today, but we had so much fun recapping the All-Star game and all the other stuff. So tomorrow we're going to talk a little bit about some predictions also, where guys are in the...
tomorrow, right? There's only one game tomorrow, I think. So
is there even? I thought Wednesday's the full day off, isn't it? And then Thursday everybody comes back.
No, I think Thursday. Mayor, give me a heat check here in the thing. But I believe I think it's only Red Sox Yankees tomorrow, and then everybody comes back Friday. I could be wrong.
So tomorrow we're gonna have no DFS to talk
about.
That's
what I'm saying. No DFS to talk about.
No DFS. That's what I'm saying.
That's
what you're saying. No, that's what I'm saying.
All right, we're good. Very good.
We'll do some predictions. We'll also look ahead at the leaderboards to see who's gonna finish at the top. That'll be a good time. But in the meantime, the story of the game still goes on. For Dinger Dan Harris, I'm Joe Pisapia. We'll see you next time, kids.